There we go. Welcome everyone to a wonderful, rainy, special Friday Facts. I'm super excited. We have our summer interns. We have not done a Friday Facts, and we should have in the past, where we're highlighting our interns. We have 4 summer interns with the North Carolina Serious Illness Coalition and with Health Sciences Health Innovations Group. And I know one of our interns is so sad she's not able to join us, Brooke Middleton, and she was really hoping, but she also has a job, and as much as we guilted her boss, it's a active job on the other end of the spectrum in a daycare. She spends her mornings, and yeah, I see Mara said that was not an easy one. She helps to run a program, and it was kind of hard in a morning, especially on a rainy weather morning, to be able to not help out. But we have 2 of our interns, and our third should be joining us. So I'm waiting to see our next person may be joining us. I want to do just some quick updates. We have fun August after taking July off for a little bit. We had one Friday Facts in July, but we've got a full month of activities in August. We have today's Friday Facts. Next week is our monthly meeting. Super excited to have the AARP North Carolina team led by Chris Brandenburg, and then Steve Hahn and Mike Oleander talking all about voter education, especially relevant right now, big election season. So we're going to be talking about that for our monthly meeting. And then the week after that, I'm pretty sure the math, it's August 23rd. Do I have the math right? I think, oh yes, August 23rd is our Friday Facts, and we're going to have the great team from the North Carolina Healthcare Association and the North Carolina Healthcare Association, Healthcare Foundation. Our members, Dean Higgins and Emily Rowland, excited to do a spotlight on them and their work. So with that, we have 2 interns. We may have a third joining us, and for those of you who've been a part of the coalition for a few years now, we have been a fun, hopefully meaningful, we'll hear, site for different kinds of interns, a lot from the public health space. And I haven't done the math in a while. I think we've had 13 or 14. It's been an interesting, and everyone has been amazing. And the team we have this summer is just really fantastic, and wanted you all to get a chance. For those of you just joining, feel free to put your name and organization in the chat line, but also feel free as we go through. We're going to have a conversation with our interns, get to know them. Feel free to ask questions. But what I thought we would do is start with just a little bit of introductions. So we're going to do a few different rounds so that way they don't have to do everything all at once. But Essence, why don't we start with you and tell the folks who you are, where you're from, what school you go to?
Okay, so my name is Essence Turner. I am originally from Pennsylvania, but I've been in Charlotte for about 6, 7 years. I am currently at UNC Chapel Hill pursuing a master's in public health leadership. I graduated from North Carolina A&T with a bachelor's in biology. So that's what I'm doing right now. As far as work on the side, I work full time with Oracle Health as a consultant. So I travel a lot. But that's about it for me. Nothing special about me.
All right, we will be coming back to you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Mana, you've had an interesting path to us. Tell us about yourself.
So, hi everyone, I'm Mana Patel and I'm a rising freshman at UNC Chapel Hill. So I start next week and I'm originally from Apex, North Carolina, so not too far out. And I actually did have a really sort of convoluted way of landing up at the coalition. So I was looking for opportunities in like the bioethics space because I was really involved in bioethics research in high school. And then one person led me to another. And then I got in contact with Dr. Altman. And and right now at the coalition, I do like social media for end of life awareness and advanced care directive awareness. And I'm looking to get more involved in the policy space in the next few months too. So yeah.
That was really fun. Mana, you do have the distinction of being our youngest intern. Last year, most of our interns are graduate interns. Last year, we did have an undergraduate intern. And then I give credit to Deb Love, one of our coalition members who reached out from UNC Bioethics and said, there's this amazing young woman who's looking for an internship. And I was like, I'm happy to talk with her. So it is wonderful. And Mana, did you say, you may have said it if I missed it. Oh, yeah, you did say you're a rising freshman. I was like, do they know where you're, do you want to share where you went to high school? Because that's pretty impressive too.
Yeah, so I went to the North Carolina School of Science and Math in Morganton. So it's like a boarding school for juniors and seniors. It's like a STEM school.
Mm-hmm. And we're already starting with questions. Marissette, did you have a question before we
No,
get into
no,
the topic?
first, good morning, everyone. I'm blown away that they're doing bioethics in high school. I think that is just fantastic. So kudos to our young um, uh, volunteers who are bringing so much experience. And I did want to say to Essence, she said there's nothing really special. Man, she has revolutionized the things for our website in South Carolina. She had like a dual assignment. And listen, I love the fact that our young people understand social media because our social media pages were horrible. I'm telling you. And I mean, she just took a look at our webpage, took some of our information, and has created some amazing digital tools for us to be able to put out. So Essence, I mean, you kind of lowballed, low keyed what you can do, but I just wanted to give a shout out to you about that. And just so professional. I am encouraged about the future of our country when we come in contact with such amazing young people who are dedicated, who understand what we're trying to do, and so professional. And it's been a joy just to work with Essence over the last few weeks. I enjoy we get together every Monday for a 30-minute check-in. And man, I'm like, I got to catch up with her. She's got my stuff ready for me. So thank you, Essence, for what you've done for our coalition and the tools. I know that we're going to be able to use those. So I won't go on and on because I know Heather can add her pieces too. So
Well, you were great. You were a great segue. So I had told Mana and Essence we were going to do 3 rounds. And so the first round was a basic introduction. The next round, what are they doing this summer? So Marissette gave a great sort of intro. You're getting a little bit of a hint. So now we'll go into what were the projects they worked on this summer, and a little bit the next round will be what are their plans for after their internship. So Essence, clearly Morissette started to share. You were a fun joint shared intern between the North Carolina and the South Carolina coalitions. Talk about what you did with us this summer.
Okay, so for South Carolina, I did 2 projects. First was the social media aspect. So I took a look at all their social medias just to kind of gauge like what they need to increase engagement and bring more people to their page. So the first thing I did was create little Instagram posts. So it kind of turned into like a series or a Did You Know series regarding their topics that they did from the symposium earlier this year. So the first topic was or centered around advanced care planning and the spiritual aspect. So I made Instagram posts and then also infographics. So the infographics, we tailored those more towards like a professional look, so LinkedIn and things like that, and possibly on their website. And then the next topic was compassion fatigue. So that topic was kind of general for a lot of people. The conversation was just really interesting. And so the most difficult part was pulling the most important information from the videos and putting us on a small little Instagram post, but we were able to do it. So that was fun. And then the other topic we talked about was veteran benefits surrounding like hospice care. So that was pretty interesting. A lot of good information from that symposium video that I took from there and put on the infographics. The second piece was creating highlight videos. So again, with the symposium videos, I shortened those. They're roughly around an hour and 5 minutes, and I turned those down to 12 minutes. That was the most challenging, took the most time, but I will say it was super fun. But for anybody that does video editing on a like daily basis, kudos to them because it was a hard task, but it was super fun for me. And then for the North Carolina, specifically what I did, I've been interested in policy and learning a little bit more of what the real world stuff looks like and what different organizations do with policy. So I was able to sit in on North Carolina's policy committee meeting and learn a lot. And their members are so knowledgeable. The way that they can tear through information was super impressive. And I just hope that one day I can learn those skills and be able to share that with people just to educate our community surrounding different policies that may pertain to them.
Well, thank you, Essence. Yes, it was so helpful with, as many of you know, Marset and the team from South Carolina, they had their virtual symposium in May. And we had our virtual symposium back in November and had a series of highlight videos that came from it that an intern helped with. And so when we were talking about projects, we thought, well, wouldn't that be wonderful for South Carolina to have that as well? And so Essence was able to run with that, created a series of videos. I haven't had a chance to watch them yet. She just sent them because kudos to Essence, kudos to Jessica, who's on, who had to help with the behind the scenes. Kudos to Steve Hahn, who earlier in the year was trying to teach us how do you create highlight videos and what are the apps and tools and ways to use it. So there was a lot of the logistics of it, and Essence helped to work it through and then really dive into the content. And it's a fun segue. And this is the first time Mana and Essence met the other day in the policy, but they had a little bit of an overlap in the big picture, not with what their projects ended up being, but you will hear a bit of a theme about how we use our interns, and not to be ageist, which is always the way of sounding a little ageist. But there has been a little bit of a tradition of our younger generation interns are excellent with social media content and helping to create new ways to maximize our social media. And so that's what Mana was interested as well. So it'll sound similar, but their projects were a little bit different and their topics. But Mana, talk about what you did this summer.
So this summer, my main focus has been, like you mentioned, getting more involved in like social media strategies. So at the beginning of summer, I drafted up a plan for all of the different social media platforms that the coalition is already on or should be on, like X, LinkedIn, Instagram. And since Instagram is the one that I personally am the most familiar with, I started making Instagram carousels that would be, open just to, like, for the general public. That's our target audience. And some of the topics that we decided to work on were, this is going to sound a little morbid, but like death at the dinner table, or teaching people about having advanced care directives on their record, things like that. So mainly topics that everyone should be concerned about, but really isn't. So really getting kickstarted in that. We haven't gotten them up yet, but we're going to get that up soon. And then yesterday, I had my first chance to get on a policy brief meeting with some people of that committee. And so I'm really excited to get into maybe like just helping out with some legislative stuff or seeing how that works as I start this new semester. So haven't done as much as Essence has, but I'm just still trying to get the groove of things.
It'll be really fun. And now it's going to be, this is the first time some of you are hearing it, but Marset and I are getting all this content, and then we have to figure out, okay, how do we use it? And I will tell you with both, and I'm even learning the terms, as Mana said, it like Instagram carousels, which are a series of tiles that you go through. And then Essence, I'm still trying there's the posts. I know Karen Appert and I were, Karen worked on a series of tiles, so I'm still trying to find the language, but using the different tools and mediums that we have both on the North Carolina side as well as the South Carolina side. I got to sit in on one of the meetings that Essence and Marset they were doing, and they had South Carolina's logo. And I was like, I love it so much. Can we have the same one and just swap out the South Carolina Coalition's logo for the North Carolina Coalition's logo? So part of what we're doing, we always have what can we use for across the Carolinas for both of our serious illness coalitions. And so we're excited to be able to share that and show that to you all, and then figure out how to use them. And we have Steve Hahn, who runs our communications work group. So what are the different ways that we actually put this out into the world? Marset, I see your hand is raised.
Yes, I just wanted to make a quick comment that one of the things that I learned this summer in working with Essence is So often, of course, in our world, we think more is better, but in the social media world, less is better. So having those small bites of information, because people's attention span is pretty short. And so I know that, when I ran a hospice, that was always the piece that kind of lagged behind, is sort of our social media presence, our website stuff, because we were really into the doing and not so much of the communications end. And so I really feel that it's a great opportunity also, as we share among our coalition members, to see how they can incorporate getting more youth involved with their organizations, just to have that lens, because we all have a lens we look through, and whether it's the clinical lens or health equity or communications. And Steve can't be with all of us, right? I mean, we would love to clone Steve because he gets this. AARP does such an amazing job in doing that work. I was in Kentucky recently, and AARP was at this outside event, and they actually had some people with doing videos on site at the event and being able to stream it live to their page, letting people see what was happening. I would have never thought about, doing that. So I think, there are those kinds of things that we can pick up as we want to appeal to different audiences. And we absolutely want to appeal more to our younger audiences as well, who may not be thinking about these particular topics. And Instagram, or IG, as my children call it, is very popular, but it's quick. It's quick. So those are my thoughts. And once again, ladies, thank you so much for the time you invested in us this summer. It was definitely productive. We're gonna be putting our things out too. We have the tools now. We just have to put them out. And so Jessica and I will be working on, a timeline to get those things out. We won't let your work go in vain. So thank you again.
And one of the things that was interesting, the conversations, Essence, and I want to get your feeling, Essence and Mon, about what it was like working with us. But I know working with the two of you, Essence was very patient with me and Morissette as she was showing us things. And I'm on a smaller laptop and I don't have very good eyesight. So not just looking at the messaging, but like, all right, how do we change the font so it's easier to read, or the contrast? Like, my older eyes, I'm gonna need, more space. And yes, that's pretty, but we had a whole funny thing on what is the best look in order for our so you were very patient with us. And I'll say with Mana, you and I had fun with provocativeness. How catchy could we be? As she said, we did play with the death at the dinner table. Kind of, how could we be kind of more catchy to get folks? But that's an aside. I wanted to hear from Mana and Essence, your experience this summer, your takeaways, and then there's also a question from Steve Hahn that we'll get into. So we're going to hear about your takeaways, and then what advice do you have for future interns?
So I had a great time personally. I worked with Morissette particularly, and like she was saying, we had weekly meetings on Monday. So I will say what I learned the most is when we had feedback about color theory. So like when it comes to posting, you have to think about what colors really are going to engage the audience, what colors are going to draw people in, and how do different age ranges also apply to the color theory. So that was really interesting. And with the videos, I learned a lot about information regarding advanced directives, health proxies, all of these different terminology that I wouldn't say I've heard of, but I wasn't necessarily familiar with what does that look like and how do you go about it. And learning about all of that stuff, being around people that are so knowledgeable about that space, it just made me feel like, okay, well, why don't I do it? Why don't I do it now? Why don't I talk about my mom? Like, has she had plans to do that? Other family members and things like that. So it made me super interested in that information. And it also led me to asking Morissette if I can continue working on their social media, because I want to stay in this space, because it's a lot of good information that I'm sure people don't pay attention to until, the time comes. They feel like they have to wait until that time, and that's not true. So learned a lot.
You, Mana?
So this was all just very, very new for me when I first started. Like I'd never heard about end of life care being such a significant issue, or I'd never heard about advanced directives. So I was really confused going in. It wasn't that hard to understand because it's something that's so relevant to all of us, but we just don't hear about it. And I guess the most difficult, but also most rewarding part of me was when I was putting together all these social media things. It was like, how do I take something so serious like dying or wills or what happens when you can't speak for yourself, and turning it into really manageable chunks for people, because people don't always want to be really sad or depressed when they're dealing with serious issues, that you want to take it a little bit with a little bit more enthusiasm and optimism. So I think that was the hardest part for me, but it's also taught me a lot of lessons about like messaging and how important it is to start talking about these difficult things even when you're younger, or maybe you don't think you're at that point yet, but you really never know. Um, and yeah, but those are my main takeaways. So now I'm excited to take like the, I guess, messaging part of that and turn it into like a more policy experience of the coalition.
And as I love Mary Bethel, as you put in the chat, it's good to have young, fresh eyes look at things. It's been really helpful. I do want to do a quick shout out. I have a feeling we're not seeing Dr. Mansi Samkwar because she's in the Charlotte area where Essence is, but I know she has lost power with other storms. And so I have a sense that she's lost power. And so Dr. Mansi Samkwar is another intern that's been with us. She's fabulous, younger eyes than mine. She's actually from India, and she is a dentist by training. That's her undergraduate degree is in dental work, and she's here to get her master's in she's in master's in healthcare administration out of the UNC Charlotte also. So we have two UNC Chapel Hill. We have our two Tar Heels in front of us, Essence and Mana. And then Monsi is getting her master's in healthcare administration from UNC Charlotte. And this summer, she really did a deep dive into our serious illness conversation training work. How can we do more to encourage medical schools and other health affairs schools to add into their curriculum? And so hers was more research behind the scenes, doing some strategic planning. She helped to facilitate meetings that a few of us had with Dean and Emily and Ellie Ward from ECU, but Dean and Emily doing work with the North Carolina Healthcare Association and their Carinova project on how to partner with health systems. And so we're just starting to do, you'll be hearing more about that work in other meetings, but Monsi was doing a bunch of work behind the scenes. And then Brooke Middleton was doing a really interesting evaluation, a qualitative evaluation of Marcet and I have been doing advanced care planning workshops throughout North Carolina for more than a year, but the current grant we have this past year, we were in 12 churches and other places, but literally Brooke did an interview with right now 10 of those church leaders to get their feedback on what it was like to host advanced care planning workshops and how to move forward with that information to make the workshops even stronger. And so she was with community members on Zoom and over the phone, and I know got a lot out of it. And so now we're moving forward. And what's exciting is we are in the last week or so of the summertime with all four of the interns. But I think all four of you have said that you want to stay on in some capacity. And so I hope that means you had a great experience, because I know Mana's able to continue her internship because she created it. So she gets to keep doing more time. Essence, Brooke, and Monsi, while their official internship is ending, different folks have asked to, well, as you go into your classwork and other papers and other projects, continue to help out either as a volunteer or feel free to use the coalition in other ways as part of your classes. Okay, sorry, I'm talking quick because now I want to get to the next round, or our last round, which is what's next? You're going to go back to class. Hopefully you're going to, well, Mana, you're just starting your process, but tell us about what you see the future, either in your academic studies or what happens after you get handed a diploma. Essence.
I was going to answer Steve's question. I didn't touch on it, but the advice that I would have for future interns is to not coming coming into it like being a know-it-all. Like I know sometimes there's a gap between the younger age and the older generation. So we think that the younger age, we have it all figured out and we're always right. So I think you have to come into it with an open mind and being willing to take the back seat because most likely they're the experts in this situation. So you're taking the information that they're providing you and creating a masterpiece. So like paying attention to the feedback that you're getting and not being offended by it. Because sometimes it's hard to be critiqued by other people, especially if you don't have a really strong relationship with them. But being understanding that they're just trying to help you and bring you into what they're doing to make it work for them. So that would be my advice. But Heather, to your question, future plans, I have 3 more classes left. So this will be my last term in school. So I'll be finished after the fall semester. So I'm super excited. So once I graduate, plan is medical school. So in the process of trying to figure out what my study plan will look like, and if I want to start studying now for the MCAT or wait until once I graduate, that's what I'm leaning towards. But I want to be an OBGYN. That's always been my passion, but I don't want to just be a doctor. I've always known that. I want to do a little bit more. So long term is to create some type of nonprofit around mothers and children.
Well, this is so wonderful. And it is great when clinicians, often I see the other way, clinicians go back and get their MPH to help. So I love that you got your MPH first, and that will guide your work that you're doing in medical school and then with your career path. That we're so excited, and already you're seeing the thanks and the great advice. So you are you're right in the middle then of your learning. You're finishing your graduate school, but now you're going to have more graduate school with medical school. Mana, you're earlier in your path. Tell us, I know some of the answers, but what's next for you as you're about to start college?
I don't have nearly as many words of wisdom as I think Essence does, but for the advice question for any interns coming in, I do want to say that like your time at the coalition, at least for me, it's like very much what you make of it because there's so many things that you can be involved with. Like me starting off with social media doesn't mean I'll always stay that way. So I think just reaching out to people and like sometimes I've had to be like, oh, is there any way I can get involved with this? Because it's not always going to be handed to you on a silver platter. And if you want an opportunity, if you want exposure, you have to be the one to go get that. So I think that would be my piece of advice. And as for college, like I'm excited, I guess. Like it's kind of whatever, but I'm going in as a radiology science major. So like MRIs and x-rays and stuff like that. And after that, this is still a long shot, but I think I want to pursue like an MD MPH program. I know UNC has a really cool one. Because like Essence said, I really am interested in being like a clinician, but this is kind of little, but I had an internship at Duke the last 2 summers where I was working in radiology, and I got to see like a lot of those things because it's such an urban area, like seeing how the clinicians have to do with like the real world truths of some of the patients. So I think as like a radiologist, maybe in the future, I think an MPH would be super useful and cool.
Well, very impressive. And I have to thank both of you because I think you also, your folks have jobs and other things that you're doing, and the fact that you made time to talk with us today, and you are seeing a lot of cheerleading, professional cheerleading, and gratitude coming from the other coalition members. I think the words that we're seeing is impress everyone. So impressed with both of you. And I know I am filled with gratitude for all that you have given of us and the coalition this summer. And it's just, you're both ridiculously impressive folks. We keep saying that we'll have a chance for coalition members with the weather and with the timing. We'll have a chance for them to meet the other two, Brooke and Monsi. But our time has come to an end for Friday Facts. But Mana Patel and Essence Turner, you are rock stars. You have done so much for us. And for the other coalition members, over the next few months, you'll get to see some of the efforts that they have done. And thank you for being part of our summer 2024 cohort of fabulous interns. So many thanks.